This video could just be me saying Dame time, Dame time, Dame time over and over again, since it's incredible how often he's able to come through in the absolute clutchest of moments. Last night was no different, although it was in a very specific situation I've been railing about for years. So the basketball gods tried to punish the Nuggets multiple times, but in the end, they outlasted the Blazers in one of the most epic playoff games of all time. Before we get to the thrilling finishes, and the word thrilling doesn't even capture it fully, there were two runs in the first half that were worth looking at, involving the starting five of both teams going at each other. The Nuggets drew first blood with a 14-1 run to begin the game, as Lillard uncharacteristically misses the open layup. His reaction to the refs put him behind the action, forcing Robert Covington to pick up Dame's man Facundo Campazzo. That leaves Dame mismatched on Michael Porter Jr., but does well to deflect the pass. However, it leads to an inside ball screen for Austin Rivers by Nikola Jokic. Jusuf Nurkic drops a step too low to contain, and then doesn't step up to Jokic, who simply shoots the 14-footer. The Blazers try to attack Jokic in the pick and roll with CJ McCollum, but he deftly knocks the dribble to half court. Now, I've been telling coaches to stop running inane diving for loose ball drills for years. Teach your players to stay on their feet and scoop it up so you can get down the court for a layup instead of ending up in the worst position in basketball, on the floor with the ball. However, give credit to Aaron Gordon for laying out on this one, while CJ stays on his feet. That said, because CJ stayed on his feet, he prevented a surefire layup from Campazzo. Had he dove, this possession would have been over. CJ is the lowest guy and is responsible for rotating to help on the dribble penetration. But Covington is longer and sinks down to be that help. That means CJ is responsible for closing out to the first pass. But it then means Covington needs to be Xing out to the corner. That doesn't happen, and MPJ lights up the scoreboard from three. Being down by 18 and on the verge of losing the series in demoralizing fashion, the Blazers had no choice but to push the pace. And with the starters matching up against each other to finish out the first half, you can see how the YOLO helped them get back in the game, as Powell finds himself one-on-one with Porter Jr., who was in good position right until he drops his left foot back behind his right. By the time he gets his feet back in position, Powell is laying in the reverse. They catch Jokic backing up in transition defense as CJ gets the hyper-quick drag screen from Nurkic. Rivers gets bumped, and that's all the space CJ needs. It's Norman Powell again, this time on the left wing, where they catch the Nuggets shooter Monty Morris trying to recover across court. And Jokic was there to protect the rim, but Powell turns this into a drifting reverse for another layup to cut the lead to 6. Watch Dame accelerate for a few steps before stopping, putting Rivers in the wrong position to the inside of this pin down. It appears Rivers expects Porter Jr. to switch onto Dame, but he's having none of that, leaving Jokic to put a hand up, but it's way too little, way too late. The Nuggets try a bigger defender in Gordon on Dame, and he knocks him down before chasing around the pin down to the right wing. The inside ball screen triggers a double by the defense, with Porter Jr. tagging to switch onto Nurkic. Dame smartly attacks the slower guy in the double, beating him to the basket, forcing the help from MPJ, and the easy dump off to Nurkic gets them closer. And to complete this huge run with another fast attack off the break, Porter Jr. doesn't want to see Jokic get beat again on a drive, so he rotates over. The kick to the corner forces the Gordon closeout, but he needs to be better than this, allowing Powell right to the rim, and check the slight ball fake on the gather that lures Jokic into the air, while he completes the nifty right-left Euro to float it in from 4 feet. But this was all just a prelude to the wild finish we were treated to. By this point, it didn't seem to matter that Portland ran out of similar-sized players to guard Jokic. He was able to score on them from both inside and outside, so I can understand why Blazers coach Terry Stotts would just say, forget it, let's go small and let Covington guard him. They opted not to double and take their chances, but if they don't double and still get beat with a simple skip pass to the corner, then what are we doing here? While it seemed Denver had this game in the bag, the first mistake, letting Dame save precious seconds by rolling the ball 40 feet up the court. They simply bring Jokic up into the pick and roll, and this becomes a switch. So Lillard blows right by him. It's tough when a guy is exactly on the midcourt line. Which of these two players is the weak side help? Well, neither of them commits, and they give Dame a layup that only took 10 seconds of game clock. Now it's a 3-point lead. Again, Jokic has to come up this high for fear of Dame hitting his patented 40-foot clutch bombs. This time, it's not a switch, but a double, and Gordon's job is supposed to close out to the first pass. The ball is always the most important thing. You can see Jokic begin his hustle to X out to the corner, but instead, Gordon is more concerned with the potential pass to Melo, and that leaves Rocco with a lick my thumb and check the wind I'm so open, game-tying three-pointer. While they didn't offer any help to Covington in earlier possessions down low, it was good to see Melo at least come over to shadow, which might have helped with Jokic losing the handle. The defense rotated perfectly except for Covington falling asleep on the one guy you can't fall asleep on. Great flash by Jokic, good pass from Morris, and the easy left foot turn into a finger roll gets Denver the lead. I don't understand why the Nuggets would screw around for 12 seconds with an extremely high pick and roll instead of just going down low to attack the mismatch. By the time they do this, there are only 5 seconds on the clock, there's the Melo shadow, and Jokic has no choice but to burp up this bad one. They finally waste no time in going right to that right block with a huge size advantage down low. When Jokic is done complaining about a little physicality, he spins and gets fouled. With this Melo miss, the Nuggets should have this game in hand, up 4, 35 seconds left. But look what they do. They screw around out top for 10 seconds before finally getting it to Jokic, with his back to the basket above the 3-point line, with 8 seconds left on the clock, and then Jokic gives the ball up to let Austin Rivers finish out the possession? This looks like the basketball gods decided to intervene for the Nuggets being so foolish down the stretch. So of course Damian Lillard cold rips Rivers, calmly brings it down, and finds CJ in the corner for an open 3 and a 1-point game. First off, I want to commend the Nuggets for being so heads up with their switching. They want Austin Rivers on Dame, but on the curl by CJ, he switches off. But then check how Morris takes CJ coming around the second screen, and then Rivers and Gordon get in perfect sync to switch back to their original men. Dame attacks and quickly pulls up, and at first glance, it appears this is a phantom foul call, and the Nuggets rightly request a review. However, on examining the replay, you do see enough contact on the shooting hand on the way up to merit a call. Plus, Rivers does the old pro trick of pushing down on his right leg quickly. This is clearly a disrupting force on anyone's shot, and the refs had no choice but to uphold the call. However, since it happens before Dame gathered the ball with his right hand into the shot, and because the Nuggets weren't in the bonus, it's a side out. This brings us to the up by 3 with under 10 seconds on the clock scenario. And if you're a coach out there watching who prefers to defend in this situation, stop arguing with me, just open your mind and accept that taking the foul with under 10 seconds is the way to go here. Eliminate the chance to tie the game up. Don't be afraid the other team will make the first free throw, miss the second on purpose, and then somehow get the rebound and then also somehow get a three-pointer out of it that they'll actually make. On the inbound, remember, if you want a certain player to get the ball, have him set a screen first. This triggers the switch, and Stotts did a smart thing, running Porter's man off the Dame screen to get him to switch. Rivers got pushed out of the way and couldn't switch back, so now the Nuggets had a situation while Dame is waving everyone out of the way, where they could have just slapped him on the wrist and given him 2 free throws. Instead, he's giving him a few feet of space as if he's worried about getting beat to the basket. Reminder, you're up by 3, you don't care if he gets to the basket for a 2-point shot. While it's a decent contest, this is what we call Dame time, and you never mess around with it. Let Dame have a look, you're going to pay. This has happened so often that there's no way around it. You simply cannot let him have the shot ever. I don't think the Blazers could settle on how they wanted to defend Jokic in the post other than not doubling him hard. While they had some success shadowing him lightly with the second defender, they got burned repeatedly in the overtime when they couldn't rotate back after giving relatively easy passes to Jokic as the Nuggets shot lights out at 45.5% from behind the arc all game. And this all culminated in letting Covington defend Jokic one-on-one down low. And he couldn't do anything to stop him from increasing the lead to 8 with under 2 minutes left. But that was the last field goal the Nuggets made in the first overtime. The Blazers knew what they needed to do. Attack Jokic in the high pick and roll, and the high heads turned into a switch, which Jokic defended nicely. But watch his movement pattern on the pass back. His right arm goes up, he's toe tapping around the 3-point line, and it gives Dame another open look from deep. I believe the term is ice in his veins. Here's where the basketball gods wanted to punish the Nuggets for not taking the foul up by 3 in regulation. CJ had an urge to go under this handoff, but thinks better of it. Too late, as Morris gets right to the rim for the game-ending layup. Wait, what? Clearly, one of the gods swiped this ball off the rim, and they get Rivers on an island with Dame. There was no way for anyone to help, so Dame slams on the brakes with the left foot and left hand dribble simultaneously. Check the slight hyperextension of the knee, ouch, before stepping back and cold swishing a deep bomb to cut the lead to 2. So maybe he didn't hyperextend the knee, but check how off balance he gets before the gather into the step back and still hits the shot perfectly with a swish. Wow. If you don't believe in the basketball gods, you will now, I promise you. A free throw just about ends this game, but Morris bricks it way left. And here we are, another foul when up by 3 scenario, and as it gets under 10 seconds, Dame turns his back to the basket. And do they foul? No. And does he hit it? Of course. Since Jokic was out for defensive purposes and no timeouts, they were left with an Austin Rivers attempt, and we go into double overtime. We got to this moment, the last Denver field goal in the second overtime, where they finally sent a real double team over at Jokic, but is Powell really doing much here? And check the incredible pass Jokic throws. He sees Covington in position to get to the corner, but waits for Gordon to cut, forcing Covington to have to take a step closer. That enables Jokic to put this ball perfectly over Roko's fingernail, and then somehow dropping like a sinker right into Porter's hands for the wide open corner 3. That same lead held up, and give credit to the Portland defense for their consistency. They were going to do or die by letting Covington guard Jokic in the post straight up. And it worked! As the drop step hook misses badly, and wouldn't you know it, the Nuggets are in yet another foul or defend up by 3 scenario. Not only that, but Rivers completely screws up the transition defense by suddenly sprinting to Powell, leaving CJ wide open on the weak side. But Dame takes 2 extra dribbles before seeing it, and that enabled Porter to get in position to deflect the pass. Because CJ had to step over to grab the ball, it disrupted his catch and shoot opportunity, and when he tried to drive it, steps out of bounds. This was heartbreaking, considering how hard they had worked to stay in it, and how it just felt like they were going to hit another 3 to tie it if they could get the opportunity. But the Nuggets made their free throws and took a gigantic 3-2 lead in this series. But I just know the Blazers will come out fighting in Game 6 at home, and that means we're going to get an epic Game 7. And with some luck, epic won't be strong enough a word.